meeting, I'll call you, Craig.
Okay.
All right.
Give me one sec, Diane, then we're good to go.
Okay. Assuming Maureen is joining us. What about Seth?
No, Seth, we know that.
Probably not.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Right, we're recording in live. I don't know about Maureen. I didn't hear either way.
Okay.
So 3 p.m.
Yesterday she said she was coming. Maybe she's just a little late. All right. Well, we will start the policy meeting. It's 3 o'clock. So we have a bunch of policies to rescind on our agenda. You should have the summary notes from Shipman and Goodwin. So the first policy to rescind is 0100/6010, our mission. A vision statement or mission statement is not a necessary policy under Connecticut or federal law. And it doesn't really, it's not a policy. It doesn't give direction to administration or staff, so they recommend rescission. I agree. Any thoughts or comments?
I have a few comments or questions. So, the determination of a mission statement is one of our goals for next year. And,
There's Maureen.
there we go. And then typically, is that a useful thing for parents or newcomers to the district?
Well, I think it's good to have, and we can certainly have it on the website. I think that's probably where it belongs, but it doesn't really belong as a policy because, like Shipman and Goodwin said, it doesn't really give direction to board members, to staff, to administration, to anyone. It's just a mission statement. I think everybody has one, and you'll probably find it on their website.
Right.
And our mission statement is posted elsewhere on the website under our general information page. It's all there. The theory of action, the mission statement.
Okay, I agree with all those points. Just wanted to clarify whether it's common, where it would reside, et cetera.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw it on our website anyway, but it is on our goal to hopefully we'll change it.
Might have to change a tattoo. I don't know. Jeez.
I think it was like 4 years ago when I first voiced my opinion on our mission statement. But anyway, so all right, so we're okay to rescind that one. Maureen, are you with us?
I am.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. So we just started and we were just talking about the very first policy to rescind. Did you have any comments on it, or it's the mission
No.
statement? Okay. All
Thank
right, so
you.
the next policy then is policy 6050, organization of instruction.
Diane, I'm sorry, before you go on, do you want to waive the second read on any of the 6,000s? You're able to? That's just something, just let me know either way.
I would say for all of these that are to be rescinded, I would ask our committee to recommend to waive the second read. Because it's not difficult.
You want to wait till the end? We can do them all at once then if you go through them? Okay.
Yeah, we'll go through the whole thing and then do one vote on that, and then we'll do the rescind and replace.
Great.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so the second policy for rescission is 6050, organization of instruction. And again, says this policy is not mandatory. They recommend repeal. The district is not currently in compliance with this policy. This is a really old policy that does not demonstrate our current school configuration nor the new configuration that we will have in another year. And so I agree with Shipman and Goodwin to rescind this policy. Comments or questions?
I completely agree. Just want to make sure there's an easy place where newcomers can go to get a sense of the configuration.
I think our actual website, if you on the front page, you can click on, I mean, it has that first page that tells you like all the schools. Am I right, Zoe?
Yes, and it's also in our general information, news about what about the district. It sort of shows you which grades are associated with which building along with their address, so you know where you're going.
Yep, great.
All right.
Sounds good to me too. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so then the next policy is 6080.11, technology and instruction. Policy is not mandatory, and Shipman and Goodwin recommend repeal because it is unnecessary and likely outdated. Technology is now an essential part of education, and this policy is likely no longer necessary. It's a very short policy, and it's really, in my opinion, not needed at all. I agree with Shipman and Goodwin. Every student has a Chromebook. They're using technology every day in the classroom, at home. this is really an outdated policy. Any questions or comments? Or problems with rescission? All right, moving on. The next policy is 6100.9, use of computers in instruction. And this is essentially the same thing. It's not mandatory. They recommend repeal. This policy actually is also explained under policy 5210, which we revised on June 6th of 2023, and its associated regulations. And so we already adopted that policy, and so therefore this is covered. Any questions or comments regarding 6100.9, use of computers in instruction, to rescind?
No,
Okay, moving on. So this next policy is actually 6141.322, computers, websites / pages, but it's also listed under 6100.9.1. And I forget what you said about that, Zoe.
It's 61.9.1 on the website, and that's what it should be. That's what it's filed as in our digital files too. But as everyone here will discover, and I'll probably make a couple more mistakes as we go through, the 6000s are so old and the files are so old, like I've had to convert some Word documents to be able to open them. A lot of the numbering is not consistent. So occasionally I might miss a few.
All right, so we'll just say this is 6100.9.1 / 6141.322, and recommend rescission for the same reason as the previous policy. It is explained under policy 5210, which we already adopted in June of 2023, along with its associated regulations. Any questions or comments about the rescission of this policy? Great.
no,
Moving on. Policy 6100.15.2, use of internet online services. This is the same thing. It falls under policy 5210, which we already adopted. That Shipman and Goodwin made our model policy. So they recommend rescission of this one as well. Again, it's redundant with the use of internet and online services. Questions, comments, problems with rescission? Okay. So those, 1, 2, 3. Those are 6 policies that we have for rescission. If the committee wishes to, I recommend that we recommend to the board to waive the second read and rescind, and as an action item at the first read.
So moved.
second,
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Let me just write a note. right,
As we
so-
go through the 6000s, you'll see we will have a lot to rescind, which is always fun. And just as an FYI, I'm going to group them, I think, like that, just thematically, where there's an overarching policy that already covers them, mainly in the 5000s, just to make it really clean and simple.
That's perfect. Thank you, Zoe. All right, so now we have 4 policies that we have seen again and again, and they're back again. 5110.4, student discipline. If you look at your policy notes from Shipman and Goodwin. So this has come back to us, one, to add in wording and verbiage about artificial intelligence. And they also made changes to address consistent discipline practices and promote strategies to teach, encourage, and reinforce positive student behavior in light of recent guidance issued by the U.S. Department of Ed Office for Civil Rights and the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division resource on confronting racial discrimination in student discipline. Our revisions reflect several legislative changes passed this session, as well as updated definitions. So if you look through this very, very long policy, you'll see the first paragraph, it has that new addition. Most of the other changes are the 57 to 60, lines 57 to 60 is the paragraph about artificial intelligence. Then there's just some line changes with numbering issues. Then line 159, there's again the line talking about AI with regard to blackmailing, threatening, or intimidating. And then there's an updated definition of bullying under lines 243 to 248, where they changed the definition and removed some wording. And actually, this is something that we had talked about the last time that we had passed it, because we actually didn't like the wording and now they've removed it. So there you go. We were ahead of our time. And then if you look at lines, the other lines that have changes are just like numbering. 338 and 339, they changed 10 days to 5 days about suspension for breach of conduct. And then most of the other changes are, well, 358 to 368 is a new paragraph. And I think that has to do with definitions coming from the state, as well as 369 to 371. That's new. That talks about out of school suspension,
Mhm.
10 days and 5 days, and that's new. And then other parts of that is just really the addition of the superintendent may delegate the authority to the building or program level administrators. That's line 396, 397, 404, 405. So there's really minor changes after that. I'm hoping that you all went through and read it. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or discussion regarding the changes in this policy? I think you'll note that most of the changes are just Connecticut general statute changes and definition changes.
I don't have any questions about the changes, but I'm hazy on a couple of concepts, and in particular, about comparing the use or sale or possession of cannabis and alcohol. And so,
Can you tell me what line you're on?
well, so I'm looking at line 131 and line 296, I think it is. So my question is, do we still regard distribution of cannabis as just handing a joint over to another student? Or does it have to involve sale? I know in the past it was just if you shared it.
It could be just passing, could be distribution. We did get some clarification from Shipman on their recommendations for that, and they did recommend similar to alcohol, but they, there's always the caution that it could be, on a case-by-case basis. So if there was something baked and then widely spread, that might be very different, and students don't have knowledge of what's in there versus someone trying to pass alcohol around.
And
The impact could be very different.
yeah, and are the penalties for like passing a joint, passing a beer can the same?
That's I think basically how the legislator has it rolled out. That the two should be treated as they're illegal substances for someone under the age of 21, not to be on school grounds, but there may not be something that's brought in front of the board anymore.
So does distribution of cannabis still mandate require like a mandatory expulsion hearing?
No.
No, that's off the table now. Good. Okay, fine. Then I was just checking to see if there's any kind of inconsistency in the way that the two were handled.
Yeah.
Any other
Questions?
comments?
Yeah. Thank you.
And Galen, the code of conduct school will be reviewed as well following this to make sure that's also just as clear as it is in the discipline policy.
Yeah, thank you.
And we have some training lined up for administrators, just an FYI for August, in terms of the new bullying policy. We're waiting for the regulations still from the state, but it's, another change. There's been probably, as Diane mentioned, about 10, but it's another change that we'll need to react to when there's some new forms and procedures they need to follow.
I think most of the changes here are just, it's general statute and we do them. So if there are no other comments or questions, I think we can recommend to move this forward to the board for rescind and replace. And we'll just do one vote on all the policies at the end. Is that good?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so the next policy is 5113, student attendance, truancy, and chronic absenteeism. You have a copy of the policy, which is short, and there are actually no changes to the policy. The changes are all in the regulation. So, and these are I believe mostly definitions. Yeah, so in 2021, the Connecticut legislature directed the State Board of Ed to amend its definitions of excused absence and unexcused absence as they relate to student attendance during remote learning. And in the fall of 2022, the State Board of Ed responded to the mandate by revising its definitions. So we have revised the model regulations to reflect the new definition. And they've Shipman and Goodwin also revised the regulations documentation requirements to allow our district greater flexibility while still following the guidelines established by the Connecticut State Department of Education. So these changes are pretty self-explanatory. If you look at them, the definitions have changed slightly. Remote learning, mental health wellness day. And then there are some, minor changes like administrator, his, her, the administrator, that sort of thing. Then there's entire paragraphs that have been removed under truancy, lines 209 to 215. And then some other minor changes. I think that the biggest change was the one that Shipman and Goodwin spoke to about, if I can find it, about the flexibility. Just looking for it.
143.
Yeah, 148 to 150. So this is under certain circumstances instead of rare and extraordinary circumstances. The building administrator may, in their own discretion, accept the delivery of written documentation through a scanned copy sent by email. And I think that's an appropriate change. Certainly makes everyone's lives easier. Any questions or comments regarding the regulation 5113? The policy remains unchanged. It's just the changes to the regulation, which, we can certainly, if we don't like something, we can certainly ask Dr. Cook to change it, but it isn't really something that we vote on.
Diane, I'm sorry, there's
Yeah.
one change on the policy. It's just an update on the legal references. It's on the back. You almost don't even notice because you think it's a link that it's under.
Oh, okay. So there
we
is.
would need a vote just to add those in.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, I didn't see that because it just looked like
That's
another
it.
reference.
Yeah, it's just simply.
All right, so the policy is updated to include a reference, so we will vote on that, and then the regulation just goes along with it. Any questions or comments? I think this one we could probably, because the policy itself only has an update to the references, we could probably waive the second read on this if the committee wishes.
Yeah,
I think that's fine.
yeah, I think that's fine too. I have a comment. So I remember that TJ gave an outstanding presentation on the high school's new tardy/absence policy. I think it was like May 7th. And that would be subsumed under this. I think there's some method whereby if you had more than, I don't remember, 10 tardies, it counted as an absence.
It's 9, and then you get a letter, I think, and then after that, they start counting. It's like a percentage.
Yes. Yeah, I was gonna jump in at some point too. I just wanted to share, I think this is something the board potentially could hear about next year. Out of parents' frustrations, we're complying with state law. We're also trying to, as Galen referenced the presentation, to work on improving our student attendance, particularly at the high school. You'll see when the accountability results come out that we saw a pretty stark increase in students being chronically absent at the high school. Part of that, I think, is the college visit days that we were allowing for students freshman through senior year. And then you combine that with the mental health days, you're already kind of giving 5 days there between the two, where students can be absent without any issue. And then, I think that we're gonna try and really communicate that. That's basically a goal of the high school next year. The thing that you may hear about, if you don't, it could be the college visits, but also the way in which we're going to accept absenteeism. So the state is recommending it be in writing. We used to have an absence line at the high school. in particular. And so parents could leave a voicemail that would be picked up by our absentee secretary or attendant secretary, and she would record that. The state is, Shipman even is recommending not to do that, by the state regulations. So we could be asking parents to send in an email. They have 10 days to do so. We're also looking at a technology aid that would help us with that. And then this change as documented in there, we want to be reasonable and understanding. So a parent picking up a child at the high school in the afternoon that's very sick and says, my child won't be in tomorrow. The last thing we want to do is say, go home and send us an email. So they say that to, one of the administrators or even one of the secretaries in the office, we're going to accept that, notification. I think that we're, trying to be reasonable on this, but, face-to-face notice should certainly suffice when we know the parents of the students. Certainly not foolproof. I mean, a student is certainly able to send an email, from the parents' account. The voicemail in a lot of ways was better, but we're complying with state law here and trying to stay ahead of it.
I think maybe one of the problems you might have is the implementation of the number of days absent, and then when you call in for the mental health days, or however you're going to do it by email, because when they're going to be included in that first 9. But once you get past the 9, they won't count as extra. So there's a little bit of an inconsistency there, and I guarantee you will hear about that.
Yeah, so we're going to have to over communicate that, because oftentimes students would use those days for maybe an unsanctioned skip day, so then they could then go to practice. Because if you take a mental health day or a college visit day, you could still go to your practice or athletic event. Or if it's on a Friday, you could do it over the weekend. So we're certainly looking to kind of tighten that up a little bit in a reasonable manner. So we'll make sure we communicate that heavily to parents, and also step up our efforts to make sure parents are aware. Oftentimes parents, through surveys, through research, underestimate the number of days kids are out. So even though it's on Infinite Campus and they see that, they don't always realize how many days and the impact of that. So we're going to increase the numbers of contacts.
I think one of the confusion pieces of that is because at the high school, it's counted by class, not by day. So if your student, went to school and then they became sick and they left, during the last 2 periods, like in your head, you're not thinking that they missed the whole day. But for those classes, those absences can add up, because that frequently happens where they go to school and they're fine, then they become sick and they leave before the end of the day. And I think that maybe some sort of communication to the parents of, don't look at the total number of days, look at the days per class, because that's where you're going to run into issues.
Sure.
Anyway, so that's policy 5113, student attendance, truancy, and chronic absenteeism. So we're going to waive the second read because the changes in the policy itself was only in the references. And everyone was happy with the changes to the regulation. So if everyone's good, we'll move on then to policy 5131.911, bullying prevention and intervention. So Shipman and Goodwin say, so legislation that passed in 2023 requires boards of ed to adopt the school climate policy adopted by the Social and Emotional Learning and School Climate Advisory Collaborative for implementation during the 25-26 school year. Boards can do so earlier if they so choose, and our district wanted to make the changes now. Among other things, the collaborative school climate policy contains a new definition of bullying, and the following policies have been updated to reflect the new definition and to support the required safe school climate plan. So we're a little bit ahead of the game here. So the first policy is the 5131.911, bullying prevention and intervention. They revised this policy to model the safe school climate plan and include the new definition of bullying. They have added definitions of discrimination and harassment, And while not required by law, these revisions were designed to provide guidance to districts in determining whether the conduct in question constitutes discrimination or harassment. We have also made additional technical revisions for clarity. And so this is actually one that when we revised it previously, I forget when that was, we had 2022. We actually discussed this about bullying and the definitions and the lack of definitions of discrimination and harassment. So this is, I think, an improvement, although in my opinion, it's still not super clear. But it is what it is. So if you look at lines 50 to 63, you will find the brand new definitions for discrimination and harassment. And then the bullying definition is lines 26 to 28 and with 30 to 32 crossed out. I think those are the major changes in this particular policy with just a couple of wording, what you call things at the end of the policy. So it's mainly just the definitions for bullying and discrimination and harassment. Any comments or thoughts regarding the policy? Nothing?
No, I mean, it's broadly defined so as to allow discretion on the spot. Other comment?
I mean, honestly, I don't find a lot of difference between their definition of discrimination and harassment, but okay. Maureen, any comments, thoughts? Are we good with this then? Right, moving on. Okay, so then the next policy is 5131.914, which is the safe school climate policy, and this falls under the same changes with regards to the collaborative and the new definitions. So you should have a copy of 152 pages from our current policy and the new policy, which is definitely shorter. And so I actually have a question or a comment regarding this. So I was reading through it, and because this policy is not necessarily need to be implemented before the 25-26 school year, the wording in the policy, let me find it. So like if you look under the school climate coordinator rules and responsibilities, line 164, it says for the school year commencing July 1, 2025, and each school year thereafter, the superintendent of schools for each district or an administrator appointed by the superintendent shall serve as a school climate coordinator for the school district. If we vote on this policy and it becomes policy now, then do we have someone who is going to be our school climate specialist prior to that date? I didn't see that it said, I might have missed it, but I'm just.
Right now, it's someone within the building. This is just more at the district level that they're looking for someone to oversee it. We've been doing a lot of the work through committee that Gail leads, Liz is a part of, and I'm a part of as well, kind of looking at ways to address any concerns and stay ahead of any issues. So we'll have to talk. It'll probably be either myself, Gail, or Liz that would take on this role.
I guess I'm just, because in that policy itself, it specifically states starting July 1, 2025. Right. But if we're going to adopt this policy and implement it effective, in 2024, then it seems like we should somewhere state who is going to be handling that prior to that date or change the date.
So I don't think we need to change the date because I think it is, it's just in the future. We already have the committee established, and I think we already have the school climate specialists established. So I think it's just at the district level that we need to confirm, and so we can do that before the start of the school year and have that posted.
I mean, I think we should, if we're going to adopt this policy for the start of the school year,
sure.
And we have to have somebody named, like who are they going to go to?
Yeah, I'll have that. I'll have that for the board meeting.
Okay. And then my only other couple of comments was, and this is for Zoe, lines 49 and 50 and 87 and 88. I think that the starting with a letter P and then numbers, I think that's not supposed to be there.
Yep, that would be correct. Sorry, this is a
Okay.
literal copy and paste from what the Climate Collaborative sent out.
That's
Good
what
catch.
I thought. So those would be crossed off. I don't think I saw it anywhere else.
I'll double check it too.
Okay.
No, I just saw another one, 87 through 88. So I'll
And
look
then-
through and find all those.
Okay, thanks. So then the other question I had was, previously, the policy that we just talked about today regarding the AI, where is it? But, Zoe, do you know what I'm talking about? Oh, 5110.4 under student discipline, we talked about, we added the information about artificial intelligence. So my question is, in this particular policy, in lines 72 to 74, do we need to add in a line about AI there? Because it talks about cyberbullying, and I think there was a similar statement in the other policy.
But yeah,
Do you know what I'm talking about?
yeah, one sec. Where should we put it there? Yeah, Shipman's are very careful not to very broadly define AI. It's saying the use of AI. Is one use of language they use, using AI in a manner that disrupts or undermines the effective operation of school. So then the way it's listed in this policy, AI would fall under any interactive and digital technologies.
Okay, but it's not specifically stated in this policy the way it is in the other new policy, and that was my only question, was that, intentional? Or should there just be some sort of inclusive statement about AI? Like, because cyberbullying, it says, means any act of bullying through the use of the internet, interactive and digital technologies, da, da, da. And I think in the 5110.4, there was a statement regarding AI being used in that manner.
We could update it to be internet, interactive and digital technologies, AI, just
Okay.
put it in the
Just,
list.
so I'm specifically referring to policy 5110.4 that we just reviewed, line 159, where they added the clause, including the use of AI to engage in such conduct. And so I just didn't know if that would be an appropriate addition here. So, I mean, we could just do a run by with Shipman and Goodwin and see if that was just like an oversight or if they really don't want it there.
Again, this is a copy from the collaborative develops the language for the climate policy. Shipman obviously reviewed it, but we're told to adopt it in full. I can double check with them if it's permissible for us to include the language regarding AI. I don't imagine that would be a great issue. I can double check and we could certainly include it in that section to have language, including the use of AI to engage.
Yeah, I just don't want it to have to come back again just to include that clause.
Okay, so how would you, so then on number 7, how would you want interactive and digital cellular mobile technology, other mobile or any other electronic communication, including AI to engage in such conduct?
Hang on.
I would think digital technologies covers it, but that's just my reading.
That's what my thought was, but we can certainly just say digital technologies, including AI. If you want to see the language there.
I mean, I didn't know if it was an oversight. I don't know if it's needed. It just seemed to me like if we included it somewhere else, that maybe it should be included here. I don't know. Anybody else have thoughts on this?
I
I
think,
agree with you. I would put it there. I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead, Maureen.
I agree with you. I think for consistency, it would help to see it again.
I think it can't hurt. I think the policy, as Zoe said, was created by the collaborative and probably won't change for a little bit, I would hope. But I don't think there's any harm in clarifying that.
Galen, any thoughts?
No. What Craig said.
All right, so maybe if we could just, Zoe, we'll work it out.
Right, my thought was if you're comfortable with the rest of the policy, we can assume I would change it to interactive and digital technologies, including artificial intelligence, cellular mobile technology, da, da, da. And I'll run it by Shipman to make sure, thumbs up on that.
Yep, that sounds good.
And so if you can still move it forward if you're comfortable, and if Shipman says absolutely not, there are attorneys on, just take it out and certainly
Okay.
talk to them beforehand.
It sounds good with me.
Cool.
Anybody have any other comments about the changes made to 5131.914 Safe School Climate Policy? Going once, going twice? Anyone? Bueller? Anyone? Okay, all right, so, then as a review, we're going to move forward with the rescission of the 6 policies that we discussed, waiving the second read. With the policies for rescind and replace, we're good with the 5110.4. We're gonna ask to waive the second read on 5113 since it's just a change in the references and the regulation is good. And then the changes that we just discussed to the last 2 policies for rescind and replace. Are we all good with that?
Yes.
One big motion and whatnot. All right. All right. Any public comment? No. Anyone have any comments? No, we're good. Okay. 3:37. I think we're done. Thank you, everyone, and have a good
Thank you.
summer.
Well done,
Thank
Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,